Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. I am Felrus, sailing the seas of Raid Shadow Legends. Today we're going to be talking about the two strategies that I use to climb Doom Tower, how they differ from each other, and maybe I can give you some ideas of some teams that you can run to make your squad faster. So I use two strategies predominantly in Doom Tower. The first is the one you see here. We're running the Cheshire Cat, Aphidus the Hive Lord, Calamitous, Thor, and Queen of Hearts. The cat here is a very interesting champion. He has an AoE A1 as long as he's under Perfect Veil. He has an A3 that will give him an extra turn if he kills an enemy, and he has an A2 that's a triple hitter that ramps his speed each time. He's very, very solid because he gives himself extra ignore defense if he's under Perfect Veil, extra damage, and he has a cheat death passive where whenever he would receive a hit that would drop his HP below 20%, he blocks the incoming damage and places block damage in Perfect Veil on himself for one turn. He also has speed in all battles by 19%, and his damage is based on speed. Cheshire Cat is incredibly solid as a nuke champion. Basically what this team is 4 nuke with the Queen of Hearts.
You want to know a secret? You can get Corrado for free, as well as Fane, Ugo, and Vergus right now. Here's exactly how to do it. Log out of Plarium Play and uninstall. Use the link in the description below to start a brand new Raid Shadow Legends account. Log in, complete the tutorial, and you'll find Corrado Fox Hunter in your inbox afterwards. As you level up, you'll also get Fane, Ugo, and Vergus. So don't wait. Use that link and start a brand new account right now.
So why are we using the Queen of Hearts? Well, the Queen of Hearts here is very useful. She has an AoE A1 as well with a drop defense for 2 turns. Then she also fills the turn meters of all allies by 5%. This is an incredibly useful A1 because she's going to be debuffing the entire enemy team all the time. She has an ally attack as well. Teams up with all allies to attack a single enemy. She has an increase attack. We're using 4 nukers, so 4 attack-based nukers even. So we're going to be benefiting from that increased attack. And then she'll decrease the cooldown of her A2 if she kills an enemy. We actually don't have her using the A2 at all because we want as many A1s as possible to get as much drop defense and turn meter fill as possible. Then we have Thor here. So Thor has an A1, attacks one enemy 2 times, 20% chance of repeating the attack. Each hit decreases the target's turn meter by 10%. Big damage A1 there. The A2, Voluminous Ricochet, attacks all enemies on a 3-turn cooldown, fully booked. After hitting the initially selected enemy, all other enemies will be hit in a random order. Each subsequent hit following the initial hit will increase the damage inflicted by 25% up to 100%. Ignores block damage and unkillable, which is really good against champions with pesky debuffs in these waves. Then the A3 attacks all enemies, self-buffs with increased attack and increased crit damage, and then decreases the target's resistance by 10% up to 50%, which is kind of nice, and then has a chance, well, books 100% chance of placing decreased speed on all enemies. Then his passive, every time he deals damage, increases the thunder counter by 1. Each thunder stack increases this champion's damage by 3% up to 30%, so he's going to ramp the entire fight. Once the thunder counter reaches 10, attacks all enemies and places a stun for 1 turn. After the attack, the thunder counter resets to 0. We all know Thor. We all love Thor. He's incredible. What does Aphidus do here? Aphidus, we're only using his first form for this. He has a big damage A1 that places drop defense and Perfect Veil on himself. His A2 is a incredibly strong hit. It attacks all enemies with increased attack on all allies, so we've got even more increased attack. Ignores 25% of a target's defense if they're not under HP burn. Ignores 50% of a target's defense if they are under HP burn. Then increases the duration of all enemy debuffs by 1 turn. Then his A3 here attacks all enemies. Damage increases by 25% against targets under debuffs. Instantly activates any HP burn debuffs on each enemy, and if an enemy is not under HP burn, places an HP burn. Guys, this dude is super strong, right? This A2 hits so hard even without the burn. It's insane. Then a Flesh Searer passive. Each time this champion places a HP burn, decreases the target's defense by 3% up to 30%. For each HP burn debuff on the enemy team, increases this champion's crit damage by 10%. Whenever an enemy HP burn debuff activates, increases this champion's attack by 5%, resets each round. So we've got big damage from Thor, big damage from the cat, big damage from Aphidus, and then we have Calamitous, who we're using his second form here for all the waves. The primary skill we're going to need from him is this Termination and his passive. The Termination attacks all enemies with Hex and drop defense, ignores Life Barrier, Poison Cloud, Ally Protection. Not super important for Doom Tower waves, but the Hex is super important because whenever he attacks an enemy under Hex, heals this champion by 30% of the damage inflicted and increases his attack by 20% for each enemy under a Hex debuff. So he's going to be hitting so much harder for each enemy under Hex. He also has an A2 that ramps depending on Hex, right? So he ignores 20% of each enemy's defense on this AoE A2, ignores 35% of each enemy's defense instead if they are under a Hex debuff. And then damage increases by 10% for each debuff on the target. So he's going to be doing very, very big damage. This is the first team I use. We're going to go ahead and start an auto climb here. And then I'm going to show you the team that I use when I run into problems, right? When I run into problems, there we go. We've got that cat there. We do have a setup here. We have Queen of Hearts. Her A2 is turned off. Calamitous is not going to be... Oh, I thought I had him set up to always metamorph, but I don't have him set up to always metamorph. That's fine. As you can see, we're kind of in the middle of Doom Tower here. We're having no problem at all with these waves. What we will have a problem with is Rhodos. Rhodos is going to seriously screw up this team. He is one of the few champions that actually can screw up this team with the level of gear that I have on them at this level of Doom Tower. So you're not always going to be here, right? You're going to need some other strategies at some point, and we're going to go over those as well. It basically comes down to crowd control. If I had to just summarize it, it basically comes down to crowd control, but that's not always what's going on. There you go, Calamitous with that big damage A2. We've got Thor just one-shotting stuff unless he weak hits. Then we have the Aphidus there. Aphidus is running a Cat's Gaze, which is going to be really good. He already ignores so much defense, but he's going to ignore even more defense, and he has Helm Smasher as well. He's in lethal. Everybody is in ignore defense gear except... Well, not everybody's in ignore defense gear. Cat is not in ignore defense gear, and Calamitous is actually not in ignore defense gear, believe it or not. Cupidus is really annoying, but he's dead, so I'm not super worried about that. We've got that drop defense. We've got that cheat death passive there from the cat coming in super handy. Calamitous finishing it off. He tends to not do much. Sorry, not do much. He tends to not die at all because he's constantly healing himself on enemies under Hex. And even in his first form, in case we miss the metamorph, he's going to be constantly shielding himself, self-buffing with increased attack, which is going to be really nice for his survivability. Now, fun fact, Calamitous actually didn't used to always shield himself. He used to heal himself by 50%. I think his passive is a bit stronger than it used to be, but yeah, there are some places where the heal would still be better, but I think the shield is still pretty darn good. We got the Final Testament there. Weak hitting against what is it? I don't know who that is. Saito? I think that's Saito. But there we go. We're not having any problem at all clearing these waves. Let me go ahead and show you the other team that I use. So the other team that I use here, and this is what I swap out to when I'm having some trouble climbing. Let's see, I have to find it because I have a bunch of squads here. So we actually have a different champion. We're still using Thor and Calamitous, but we're using Kimi for the lead because she has ally speed in Doom Tower battles by 30% for her aura. Her A1 attacks one enemy, then attacks the enemy with the highest turn meter. The second hit has a 50% chance, books to 60% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. The A2 attacks all enemies with decreased accuracy and decreased speed, and decreases each target's turn meter by 15%. That could actually be boosted by her passive. We'll get to that in a second. A3 removes a random buff from each enemy. Then it places block buffs for 2 turns on enemies who have buffs removed. Also fills turn meters of all allies by 15%, and places increased accuracy and increased speed on all allies for 2 turns. Her passive is super strong. Whenever this champion places a debuff on an enemy, also decreases that enemy's turn meter by 5% for each debuff placed. That means her A3 is going to decrease by 5%, and her A2 is going to decrease turn meter by a total of 25%, in addition to that A1, which has a 60% chance of decreasing a target's turn meter by 15%. Kimi is super strong. She's a good buffer, a great debuffer. We're using Armons. Armons the Magnificent, mostly because of this A2, which attacks all enemies, steals the turn meter of each target, and then places a stun on everybody who's not under Sheep. He's going to be placed in Sheep as well, but this AoE stun, which is effectively on a 2-turn cooldown, is going to be MVP for passing waves. Then Elva, of course. Elva with the continuous heals on her A1, the full cleanse block debuffs increase speed on the A2, the revive, and the passive heals with the perfect veil. This is the team that I use when I run into trouble. It comes down to debuffing the enemy, buffing yourself, and keeping yourself nice and healed up, and doing crowd control. As you can see there, unless Armons gets resisted, and our team is so much faster, right? Our team is so much faster that we're not going to really run into any trouble there. Calamitous with the one shot, of course. We still have our drop defense, of course, from Calamitous. Of course, Thor is going to be ramping. He's in ignore defense gear. So there is that aspect to this team as well. We're not going to quite one-shot the second wave because, again, no ignore defense outside of Calamitous termination skill. But as you can see, the waves are not going to be taking any kind of turns. We're just going to be completely demolishing them because that's what these teams are built to do, and hopefully that gives you some idea for you. Kimi is really a phenomenal Doom Tower champion, mostly because of her aura, which is going to allow you to go so much faster, right? She and with the debuffs and everything, even just for the aura though, if you're running a damage blitz team like we are, she's going to be so solid. She's going to be so solid. I definitely highly recommend that you use her. I don't know what happened there. Guess we didn't clear anything new, but that's kind of my thoughts for building a Doom Tower team. Let me know your Doom Tower team in the comments below. I've been Felrus, sailing the seas of Raid Shadow Legends, and I'll see you in another video.